This podcast is powered by Masterpiece Kingdom Brands. This episode is brought to you by serveyoucare.co.uk. Joining me today is an amazing person, the lead therapist and founder of the Tiny Room private practice in Cape Town. Everybody, welcome to the show, Lucinda Valentine. Hi, Luz.
Hey, this is so cool. I'm so excited.
Lucinda, you are the founder of the Tiny Room, but I think a lot of people are as curious as me. What is the Tiny Room? And can you please tell us a little bit of what the background is and why you decided to call it a Tiny Room?
There's actually three angles to this answer. I'd say history-wise, in a roundabout way, it came about presently. Back in the day when I used to do counseling with clients in my social work degree, my undergrad, we would be in a tiny room. To the point where I even did a session or two with a client in a broom closet because there just wasn't any space at a community clinic where I was based for my practical. So, if I had to show you pictures of what I had to actually use as a counseling room when I was a student, it's a tiny room, but the impact that I made in that tiny room was, generationally, impactful. So fast forward a couple of years, we have our amazing, home, and we're on this property where we had the opportunity to kind of revamp one of our extra rooms here. And it's a tiny room. It's a small room. And so when I was wanting to start my private practice and not knowing where would I actually practice from, I could be in the home or I could, use this additional room in time. So I said to my husband, what do I call this private practice? Like, I have no idea. I don't want to call it my name. Most people call their private practices by their first name, but my vision, or the vision that I was given, was way bigger than me. So I knew I couldn't name it by my name. So then my husband Lyle said to me, call it the Tiny Room. And I was like, I like it. I was like, okay, cool. And then it just became the Tiny Room because it is actually a tiny room. And it's so funny when clients come to the tiny room, they're like, oh, it's literally a tiny room. And I'm like, yeah. But it also has a story behind it where we can make groundbreaking, impact, life-changing impact, and just see change in this like a 3x3 room, But yeah, that's pretty much where it comes from.
That's amazing. It rings a bell, and I think in branding and storytelling, it always catches the attention of people. And speaking of like storytelling and branding, Luz, you're operating in a space wherein, especially in the recent years, it has really, I don't know what the technical term is, but the mental health became more famous, if you can say that. People are using this, and the pandemic has obviously gave a spotlight on mental health. Because of this space that you're in, as you said, like most practitioners in your space, professionals there, called branded in their surnames or family name, and you going on a different route. How does that make you feel? It seems to be so brave to go against the current of what the normal people are in your field, for example, are doing. Like, how do you feel about that?
Well, it's just so me. I was like, I don't do anything like anybody else. I just don't feel like doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And that's the definition of insanity. So as far as I know, I haven't been diagnosed as insane. So Lucinda, as a personality, I just go against the grain with everything that I do. I think differently, I'm odd, I'm weird, but I happen to be a mental health care practitioner and professional. So, yes, it's my industry, yes, it's my career or my speciality or my passion, but why do we have to do the same thing in this space? Because as we've seen, it's not really getting any better. So kind of brought my own years of experience, plus what I've to be working and not working, and put it into a brand that is telling the story that we do things very differently here. And it started off with the name. The brand itself has a personality of itself, but our mental health or our therapy counseling framework is also completely flipped on the head. And it's just shaking up the industry on all levels: branding, marketing, story, the narrative, the practitioners, like I said, our framework. So we just do every element of it the opposite of what's happening currently. And I feel like it's
Wow.
working.
That's incredible. A lot of our listeners who are entrepreneurs always, like has this idea of like, why do you need to fix it if it's not broken? Or like, if it's working, why change it? Like, I mean, and that has in itself so many factors, but like, especially in your space, does it also translate with the way that you're branding, the way you're communicating yourself? Does your audience, like the market, are they okay with it? How do they find you? Because it seems to be a very unconventional approach into
Yeah,
mental
that's
health.
the word, unconventional. That's spot on. Hit the nail on the head. We say that a lot. We're not the traditional way of doing counseling and therapy. I think for probably over a decade now, maybe longer, clients have been wanting something different, but it's just not out there. So when they find this kind of new way, if you can call it that, we're not the only ones. There's a couple of other practitioners around the world who get it and are people-centered and are, in the people business, where it's not a transaction. It's not we provide a service, you give us money, we talk to you for about 55 minutes and off you go, but we're doing life with people. We're getting in the trenches, we're getting messy, and it's inconvenient doing therapy and counseling the way that we do because it's like genuine, authentic, but it's been needed. And I can see the need, or almost like the desperation, with tweens and teens and adults coming through our doors. I see that these, human beings have gone through other processes, or not processes, but they've gone through other practitioners over the years, different ones for 2-3 years, spent a lot of money, but yet they're still at square one. Like there's no shifts, there's no positive transformation or recovery, or what's the word? Transformation is pretty much all I can think of. It's the best word to use, but there's just no shifts in their lives. So I just feel that need. I can sense that need, and we feel like we are really fulfilling a need that's been hovering around for quite a number of years. So we're in our sweet spot. I can feel it. We sought after, and we're busy. We don't have to really do much. It's pretty cool.
You said that's a very good point, that you were in your sweet spot. And I think for a lot of business people and a lot of creatives and a lot of starting entrepreneurs, it takes time to get to that spot. And you're fairly new in the business and in this space. And I believe you have really broken through like the barriers of a lot of things in that industry. So how did you get into your sweet spot? And what were your strategies, if you can share, like to find the people, the right niche for your therapy?
Honestly, a lot of people, and this has happened to you, I'm sure, people see the success now and they think that it happened overnight. And yes, the Tiny Room has been going just over a year now. 3rd of April, we are officially a year old, where we had our first client booked in, 3rd of April last year. But the practice was registered, even a month before that. And I have over a decade's experience. So I have gone through a lot, not only before studying, for this profession, but in my normal, like my personal life, gone through a lot to groom me. Grooming is maybe not the best word to use in the social work space because we always use it in such a negative way. But literally, as you get older and you go through stuff, hard knocks, as they call it, but not just professionally, but also personally, it set me up for a win to do this. And not only to run this business, but to be a therapist, to be in the mental health care space. So we forget about all those years of refining. With gold, you got to put it under really high temperatures before it's, refined and pure. I went through a hectic refining process. So as an individual, I went through enough to gain the experience that I needed on all levels to understand a human being's situation fully, but still have advanced empathy enough through my training to still hear their story, because everybody, regardless of having same experiences, we all see them differently or feel them differently, and their perspectives are different. So I think that it's just given me everything that I needed in detail to not only be a therapist, but then also my experience as an entrepreneur. I mean, that started in high school for me already. I didn't realize I was an entrepreneur when I was in high school, hustling.
How did that look like back in high school?
Well, I thought about it a couple of years back, actually, but more recently in the last year or two. I always try and find the most efficient and effective way of doing something. There needs to be logic behind it. So, I'm always curious. I'm an investigator. So I like facts and numbers, and, the numbers don't lie. So in high school, we would have a fundraising time of the year, and I hated it. I don't use the word hate often, but I hated it. And I don't want to go and ask people for money. I don't want to sell them stuff. So I thought, how am I going to raise this money? So I thought, well, I'm going to sell something that they would buy, that they would enjoy, and I would then make the money that I needed, the profit, to just pump that into this fundraiser. And then I've ticked that box. Like, no one's going to bug me. I gave them the money they wanted, and I'll be left alone, And it was like for a big walk. These schools will have big walks every year. So I went and bought brownies at a gas station down the road. The most amazing brownies. I had them. I was like, this is amazing. They were affordable. I bought like a tray of them every week, and I'd sell them at school. And then the profit from that, I would just put towards this. And I think it just started from there.
Wow. That's cool. I also sold like biscuits back then for
Food is the way.
yeah, it is because a child, it seems like it's play, but it really has an impact on our being. So that's cool. So how did you tell your story? I mean, you came as a new player in the industry. Even as you've said, you've established a network already on your personal level in the community. But officially, how did you sort of professionally transition from being Lucinda into the tiny room?
Oh, that's such a great question. That is really a great question, because it was chalk and cheese. There wasn't actually a transition. It was literally Lucinda J Valentine as a brand had come to an end 1st of November 2021. Like everything that had been linked to Lucinda, be it politically, be it academically, still a wife, thankfully, still a few other personal things were kind of happening, but a lot of career and professional avenues that I'd pursued for years had come abruptly to an end. And then I was like, okay, but, like, what now? But there were so many pressures in a good way over the year or two prior to that. So like during lockdown, and then the year after lockdown, so 2021, this whole teen suicide was increasing, and we just were reading about it far too much, and it kind of was lingering there. You should do something about this. You can do something about this. You should do something about it. And I just pushed it away. And then all the personal branding side of things coming to an end, it just was even more prevalent and hanging there. And then I just felt the pressure. So beginning of 2022, which is now beginning of last year, we had like a census. South Africa was having a census, and I got involved with building the teams, especially in the area where I live. I know a lot of people, as you said, built up a network over 11, 12 years in the northern suburbs of Cape Town, So I knew a lot of people and could make things happen quickly. So I was approached, signed a contract with them. I helped build their teams, their field worker teams. And I got to be on the ground in my own suburb, in the surrounding suburbs. And I saw how much brokenness was happening behind these very high walls. It's a very affluent area where I stay, with the surrounding suburbs also being quite affluent. And I'd worked in impoverished communities for years. Community development as a social worker was happening. So I thought to myself, yeah, that's where I'm going to go do my social work. But then I realized, whoa, there's a huge need here right under my nose, like right next door or right in my street. So then I thought, the practice, I have to start the practice. But I had no idea what I was doing, like none. I was like, how do I even register a private practice? But I'm curious. I'm an investigator. I love research. I was geared for this. I was wired for this. So I just got on Google and asked, people in my, professional Facebook pages, just ask questions. And eventually you get details and you kind of find a pathway. And I got the practice registered within 3 days. And then once the practice number is there, you link to all the medical aids. That was the next step. And then you just kind of use with what's in your hand, your own network. Start letting people know that you started the practice. I had no branding. I just had me, my face, a headshot of me and my name. That's sort of people know. And just let people know that I've started my practice. And it just went from there. I didn't have branding for, maybe the name was there, probably like a couple of weeks into it, like, oh, I better name this practice, like, what are we going to do? And then the branding only came probably like the July. So from April all the way till July, August, I had no branding, but yet I was having clients come through. But then I had to ask a lot of questions because this was a very new ball game for me. Private practice, like what does this mean with medical aids, with your registration, with clients coming in, payments, invoicing, statements, bank accounts, like I have other businesses that are in a very different space who are in incubation, infancy stages. So it's not on this level, So you can never know which business is going to take off first. Some can be dormant for years, and then this newbie, this is little baba, is now deciding it's going to boom into a teenager in like 12 months. Anyway, so I had to just ask and ask and ask. I mean, the corporate wellness space, I had no cooking clue what that was about. I had to learn very quickly because that's also how I got a lot of business coming through in the beginning when it was still very new and trying to state your claim, with your brand and with our style of therapy and counseling and all this nonsense, which is now not nonsense. But at the time I thought, what, really? I have to do all of this? And now I see it's really important. But it just took a lot of asking in here, not just constantly typing and asking people, but asking in here so that you can go down rabbit holes of research, YouTube videos. I mean, I've watched so many YouTube videos. So it's just being very curious.
So you started your business even without, the brand was you. It was just you. And then I got the honor and privilege to develop your brand in the beginning. But when did you decide that, okay, we need to brand this properly? And then how did it change the moment the brand was like there already?
My answer can be so detailed because I've walked a journey with you and, Masterpiece Kingdom Brand. So I've been schooled. So I think this is helpful that over the last 6-7 years, maybe 8 years now, I've been schooled by you, Norbert, and I've been educated. So with my previous businesses that you've also done the branding for, I see the weight that it carries, having a brand that is the shop front, of this business of yours, regardless of if you actually have a shop or if it's now just putting yourself, the business out there. There's a lot of credibility and integrity, professionalism, but also excellence that's brought across when you have a brand that has been done well. And I saw that with my other two businesses and the branding that you did. So there's confidence behind that. So I always knew that the tiny room would be branded. But I needed the money. And obviously for the first couple of months, I needed to go and make that money because I wanted to invest the money needed to have this brand done well and done properly. And I wanted it done by you. And I know you can cut corners and you can go somewhere else, but I've seen what's been produced. And I'm like, my businesses deserve my respect to go and have it done properly. So invest the money needed. So I took that time to make the money. We needed a bit of equipment also. I needed a new laptop. We started doing virtual sessions with international clients and nationally. So I needed to go and get the finances. So I used what was in my hand, which was my own personal brand, and just kind of survival mode, if you can call it that, in the beginning, made the money, invested it in a new laptop, invested it in the branding through you. And then once I had that, I took my marketing and promoting of the business up to a whole nother level because I had the confidence and I was very proud of what you produced and what we sat together as a team and we, came up with, that I couldn't shut up about it. I didn't want to hold this back and hide it, It's like that light, that light on a hill or that lamp on a hill. You don't want to put a bucket over it. You want to take that bucket off and just let it shine.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to get the tiny room branding out there. This is so cool. I don't care if it is a mental health care practice or, like a therapy and counseling practice, whatever, we're going to get it out there and we're going to shake things up with this brand alone.
Wow.
I get a lot of questions. The tiny room, where does this come up with? This is so odd. I'm like, odd is how we do things. Are you odd? You need to be here. You're our ideal client. If you feel you're weird and odd and you don't fit in, come to our therapy, that type of thing. So that's pretty much how it unfolded. So I did have a couple of years of understanding the weight that it holds and the importance, and that maybe wait a little bit so that you have the right amount of financial investment to put into it, but you will make that money back hundredfold in a short space of time.
That's true.
If it's done properly. Plan for the worst and hope for the best. I knew that my hoping for the best would mean that I needed to plan in those few months, the dry months, as I call them, where I didn't have the branding. It wasn't so official, kind of like it felt unprofessional in a way, not having the branding, but I knew just, okay, push through. You will be where you need to be and get that finance together. And then I knew, short-term sacrifice for long-term gain. We'd get there eventually, but you have to plan. That's where the gold and the platinum and the diamonds are, is just having a couple of months of patience, planning, and then investing that. You will springboard your progress and your business will be set up for a serious win, and the foundation will be laid super strong.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really very encouraging, especially for those who are listening who are, in a lot of self-doubt. And like what you said, like you were stirred by this brokenness that you've seen that was just under your nose. And I'm sure there were nights that you cannot sleep around it. And,
yeah.
And then the one thing I love about their story is that you did not wait to have it all together. Like you were diligent to plan and prepare for certain phases and levels of how to grow the brand, but you were not fearful in questioning that you can do it.
I am somebody that is analysis paralysis. So I actually only wanted to start once the branding was done. But it was my husband who's my accountability, where he's like, why do you want to wait? People need your help. So start. You've got a lounge. The tiny room hadn't been renovated yet, so it hadn't looked the way that it needed to look to even use. So I started doing sessions in my lounge because, we both work from home. He worked away from home quite a bit, so it was just me here most of the time, super quiet, great place, very homely. It's our whole style. We don't have a waiting room. We don't have signage. People feel like they're coming to visit us and just hang out, even though they're coming for counseling and therapy. So they loved it. And I just started, but I gave pushback. I wanted it all together. But then in hindsight now, I actually encourage many people because I pushed back and I was pushing back from a place of ignorance because I'd never done this before. So I was like, no. I need to have everything together. But now that I started with not having it all together and seeing the benefits of it, I encourage everybody to, what is in your hand? Are you using all your angles in what you have in your hand? Go to your cell phone, your mobile phone. Go look at your contacts list. You don't realize how many clients you've got sitting there in your contacts list that look at your WhatsApp status. Are you using your WhatsApp status to its max? Are you optimizing that? Because I got a lot of clients just from my network of 11, 12 years in my phone. And then going out there and using community pages on Facebook that once a week would allow you to post a business post for free. Or commenting on a Facebook post about somebody looking for a mental health care practitioner, and boom, I would get a new client. And then that client would tell another client or another family member, whatever. So for me, I just started there, and I started with 4 sessions in our first month. And then it worked up to about 7 sessions in the 1 month. By November in our first year, we were sitting at 77 sessions in that month.
Wow. And now you have another practitioner with you.
And now we've got a counselor on
that's amazing.
Group practice in less than 12 months. And now we've got an intern also, which is mind-blowing. I never even thought of an intern. I was like, what? We can have an intern? Oh my gosh, this is awesome. So yeah, you never know.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Wow. I mean, we can unpack this thing, the whole day. It's just so cool to see the journey and how he has unfolded. I have another question. I think I have 2 more. In terms of like your storytelling and branding, I mean, we're talking about branding here. A lot of new entrepreneurs, or maybe even seasoned ones in a certain level, think that branding is an unnecessary expense. And it's something that they can just, okay, by the way, we'll think about that later on. They don't normally invest in it very much because they don't necessarily see the effect of it immediately, unlike in the other spheres of business. How important was it for you to have the Tiny Rooms branding done right?
We couldn't tell our story and express our personality in how we do things if we didn't have the branding that we did. There would be no way. For me, we're visual creatures. People say, oh, I'm a visual learner, human-wise, and I'm all about behavioral science. I analyze humans. That's my trade. And for me, every single human being is visual. So if you can get that sweet spot in telling your story and bringing the heart and the vision of your business across through your branding, you've really saved your money on other areas by just doing the branding. So it just tells the story so beautifully, and like the whole story, by having branding done properly. Because branding isn't just an image.
Yeah.
Well, this is what I've learned. I mean, when you see the tiny room and people come and experience the tiny room, not just the four walls, but the framework of how we do counseling and therapy, it all ties in to this one story and tells the same narrative. So when people send through our website, our website address to people, because we use that as our booking process, our screening process, our intake and consent form, all that stuff. So we're very automated in how we do things. But when you see all of it together, it all is like uniformed. It's this consistency. So for me, if they're thinking of branding in the traditional sense, maybe decades ago, I don't know how long ago, where it was just, it made it look fancy.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than that. If you're actually doing branding on that almost like cellular level,
Yeah.
the molecular level, that human level, where your brand becomes your business's personality, or at least is bringing that story of the personality of the business or the vision of the business across. It's not something you can detach from it. It's a part of it. It's like a limb. Or, when people dress according to their own personality or their style.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I can't go and tell this person who's like a hipster to go and dress like so-and-so, because that's not who they are. So that branding or that outfit that they're wearing is in line with their personality. It's the same with the Tiny Rooms branding. So we can't separate ourselves from that.
That's amazing. That is so amazing. And you guys have done a very incredible job. And in such a short span of time, the amount of people that you've helped and the amount of stories that were changed and impacted because of your excellent communication and brand, like as a whole. We're so happy and we're so proud of you guys.
We're so thankful for you guys. Wouldn't have happened without you, my go-to team.
That's amazing. So Lucinda, how can people reach you? And if, we have listeners all over the world who are South Africans, maybe, who are looking for this unconventional therapy, how can they reach you and how can they book a session with you guys?
Pretty simple, just www.thetinyroomtherapy.com. Everything's there, all the information. You just click on book now, takes you through to our Google form. You just fill it out. We're very passionate about providing counseling and therapy to our South African clients abroad. We've got South Africans in the US, in the UK, in Germany, Singapore, who are doing sessions virtually with us. To another South African to provide that mental health care support. And we understand that. It's also making it feel like they're home, but they're not.
Yeah.
Moving overseas is a transition. You moved from one country to the other. It's a transition. It comes with its own challenges. And Instagram at the Tiny Room Therapy. On YouTube also, we've got some great podcast episodes that might, bless others by giving some more information on certain challenges or issues or just interests. So we've tried to layer it. Not everybody can book in. We only have so many hours in the week between myself and our counselor. So we want to help everybody, as many people as we can, by putting content out there that if you can't book in, then at least you can get some sort of help. So just watch this space.
Yes, thank you. And I mean, you guys, again, you're doing things, you're shaking up things, and these guys have an amazing YouTube podcast. So you can head out also to their YouTube channel and catch their recent episodes there. So Lucinda, it's amazing. I think I would not let you go if you can talk to your high school self from what you have knowledge now. And by the time when you were standing there at that garage selling brownies, knowing what you have achieved now and where you are now, what would you tell to that teenager fundraising and figuring out life?
There's twofold to that. Because I've got the investor entrepreneurial side and then the social worker side, the mental health care practitioner side. There's two sides to that high school Lucinda. And the one side is the Lucinda that I provide to my clients, my tween and my teen clients. I'm very passionate about therapy, effective therapy, and tween and teen focused therapy. Is I didn't have the person that I needed in high school to help me through a lot of things. It's a very tricky time, the end of primary school, going into high school. Adolescence is a very confusing and awkward stage, and parents don't always professionally know what to do. It takes a village to raise a tween or a teen. So I always say in that village is a mental health care practitioner, and then you can just be the mom and dad and do what you need to do. So for me, I want to be the Lucinda that I didn't have when I was in high school. So that's why I love what I do. And I feel like there's not enough practitioners out there that are relatable to tweens and teens. So I have a story that's very much relevant and, kind of breaks down barriers between tweens and teens and myself. So that I love. And the others, so for me, thinking back on that level, I almost want to say, Lucinda, it's going to be okay. You're going to, through all this hardship, you're going to be able to use your testimony and your story to help others and bring some comfort to that. And then on the entrepreneurial side, I didn't have parents that saw that in me and didn't nurture it. My dad's a bit of an entrepreneur. He always had like a really decent side hustle, and I never appreciated that enough. And I don't think he really knew he was an entrepreneur and wasn't nurtured for that. But I think I was always seen for having something that is different and there's potential, but I didn't always have the right support. But I had resilience and the determination and the ambition to push forward. So if I had to think back, I would have said almost like pursue that more. Don't have that employee mentality and that traditional, conventional way of kind of going through things. But I think if I go through my life, I did kind of do things very differently. Even though at times I was an employee and I didn't hit out too much with my entrepreneurial side, it all worked out fine in the end. I lived a very colorful life. So it was all about people. And I think, if anything, if you're not an entrepreneur for the first 10 to 20 years of your life and it happens later on, as long as you've been serving others and being in a community, supporting each other and building an organic network, you will be set up for a win in whatever business you start anyway, because it's people at the end of the day.
Amazing. So much gold in there. Lucinda, thank you so much. And we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Norbert. This was so much fun hanging out.
We'll see you soon. And thank you so much, guys, for listening. And we'll see you in our next episode. Thank you for joining us today. This episode was brought to you by serveucare.co.uk.